On February 26, 2026, AFP photographer Kostas Metaxas stood on the shore of Suda Bay in Crete and photographed the USS Gerald R. forward as it began its transit toward the Middle East theater. That photograph, published by the Jerusalem Post on the same day, is one of the last confirmed civilian visual sightings of the fort at close range before the carrier entered the state, the Jerusalem Post described. With the phrase, no mainstream publication had previously applied to a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Electromagnetic, ghost mode. The fort's eyes transponder, the radio beacon international maritime law requires most vessels to operate for collision avoidance, was confirmed, switched off. Its civilian GPS transmissions were confirmed, suspended. Every commercial ship tracking service showing the fort's position in the Mediterranean went dark. MarineTraffic, VesselFinder, FlightWare's maritime tracker, every civilian aggregator pulling its eyes data from the global network of coastal receivers showed nothing where the world's most powerful warship had been. That deliberate disappearance is where this analysis begins, because the confirmed data from the 12 days between February 26th and March 9th revealed a specific and precise strategic gap. The fort's electromagnetic ghost mode eliminated its visibility on every civilian tracking platform with documented precision, and it simultaneously failed to address the four-layer surveillance architecture already watching it. From Russian military satellites with confirmed real-time data sharing to Iranian command structures, from a Chinese intelligence vessel in the Gulf of Oman with a sensor envelope the size of Western Europe, from China's commercial satellite constellation with revisit rates measured in minutes, and from a Shanghai-based AI company that continued tracking it using synthetic aperture radar requiring no signal from the fort. The fort vanished from every tracking system it controls. It remained visible to every tracking system it does not control. MCON emissions control is not a single switch. It is a graduated operational posture that suppresses different subsets of the carriers. Electromagnetic emissions, depending on the threat environment. The USNI News analysis of the fort's electromagnetic survivability confirmed the architecture with specific components. The fort shuts down its active radar systems, including its primary air surveillance radars, when a hostile satellite overpass is imminent, or when the operational commander determines that active emissions would reveal the carrier's position to an adversary's electronic intelligence satellites, which track ships by detecting the specific frequencies, power levels, and pulse intervals of radar transmissions rather than by seeing them visually. It shuts down its TACAN navigation beacon, the radio signal carrier-based aircraft home on during recovery operations, substitutes encrypted law power, its directional transmissions using frequency hopping technology for omnidirectional radio communications. The Army recognition groups confirmed. MCON analysis described the communications architecture that maintains operational effectiveness while MCON is active. Emission control postures are adjusted to limit the group's electromagnetic signature while maintaining a recognized maritime picture shared through Link 16 and other secure networks. Link 16 is the encrypted digital data link that allows all ships and aircraft in the carrier strike group to share a common tactical picture in near real time without broadcasting detectable radio signals. In the Cold War threat environment for which MCON was designed, this architecture was highly effective. A Soviet reconnaissance satellite passing over an area where the fort had been operating would detect an empty stretch of ocean because the fort had gone dark before the overpass, moved at 30+ knots during the blind interval, and was now in a position the satellite would not revisit for hours or days. The USNI News analysis confirmed that operational logic, once a Russian satellite captures an empty stretch of ocean, it can take hours or even days for another satellite to revisit that area. And in that window, the fort can move hundreds of nautical miles. That architecture was designed for a world in which adversary satellite coverage had gaps measured in hours. The 2026 Iran conflict is being conducted in a world in which the adversary's satellite coverage has no such gaps. The fort's dual-band radar is the one sensor system unique to this carrier, among all American aircraft carriers. It combines two distinct radar frequencies in a single integrated suite. The X-band and SBY-3, built by Raytheon, and the S-band and SBY-4, built by Lockheed Martin, coordinated by a single resource manager. Military Aerospace, The War Zone, Defense News, Wikipedia, all confirmed this dual-frequency integration was the first of its kind ever achieved in a single coordinated system. The Army Recognition Group's confirmed analysis described the operational advantage. The DBR offers enhanced detection of small, fast-moving targets, including drones and supersonic cruise missiles, while reducing the ship's electronic signature, a critical advantage in modern electromagnetic warfare. In a theater where Iranian Shahed 136 autonomous drones and Khalij Fars anti-ship ballistic missiles are confirmed active threats. A radar that simultaneously searches large volumes of sky at S-band and tracks small, fast-moving targets at X-band is precisely the tool the threat environment demands. The DBR is also the only dual-band radar ever installed on any American carrier. The Navy discontinued the program in 2016 after determining it exceeded the carrier's requirements given the Aegis capabilities of its escort destroyers, confirmed by Military Aerospace, The War Zone, and Defense News. Every subsequent Ford-class carrier, starting with the USS John F. Kennedy, will use the Enterprise Air Surveillance Radar instead. Now add the confirmed operational record of the DBR before this deployment. The War Zone reported in February 2025, citing the Pentagon's Director of Operational Test and Evaluation Annual Report, that the Ford's dual-band radar faced documented availability problems under stress. The DOT and E reports exact confirmed language. DBR availability declined during the FY23. Com2X with continuous demand for radar coverage and an intermittent failure observed during co-rations. That is not a vague readiness concern. That is the Pentagon's own testing organization documenting that the Ford's most advanced and most unique sensor experienced declining availability under exactly the kind of continuous demand that a combat deployment in this theater generates every hour. Here is the confirmed account of each of the 4 surveillance layers and what it did with the Ford during its ghost mode transit. The first layer is MISR Vision, a Shanghai-based artificial intelligence company confirmed by Flight Global and Airmec. MISR Vision published a commercial satellite image of the Ford at Suda Bay on February 26, confirmed by Flight Global and Airmec, showing the Ford with its air wing on deck, its core destroyers in formation, and its position precisely geolocated. When the Ford switched off its ICE transponder and went dark on civilian trackers, MISR Vision switched to synthetic aperture radar imaging. Synthetic aperture radar is a mode in which a satellite emits its own radar signal and records the reflection from surface targets, producing images that do not depend on any signal the target vessel transmits working at night through cloud cover, and through electromagnetic interference, because the imaging signal originates from the satellite, not the ship. Airmec confirmed that MISR Vision combined SAR imagery with publicly available flight tracking data, identifying a P-8, a Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft flying from Bahrain toward the Arabian Sea, consistent with carrier surveillance coverage. The Ford's ghost mode eliminated its visibility on civilian eyes trackers. It did not eliminate the radar reflectivity of a 100,000-ton warship to a synthetic aperture radar satellite. Its second surveillance layer is the Russian military electronic intelligence satellite constellation, confirmed by 4 American news organizations with 9 combined independent sources on March 6, 2026. The Washington Post reporters Noah Robertson, Ella Nakashima, and Warren P. Strobel confirmed Russia is providing satellite intelligence to Iran on United States force locations. NBC News confirmed with 4 independent sources. ABC News confirmed with 2 sources. CNN confirmed with multiple sources, adding that much of the intelligence consists of imagery from Moscow's high-precision military satellite constellation. Nicole Grajewski of Harvard's Belfort Center confirmed on record that Russian electronic intelligence satellites track ships by listening for radio and radar emissions, and that the sophistication of Iranian attacks in this conflict is notably higher than in the 12-day war of June 2025, consistent with enhanced external targeting intelligence. The third layer is the Liao Wang one, confirmed by Defense Security Asia to be operating in the Gulf of Oman with a surveillance envelope of approximately 6,000 kilometers, capable of simultaneously tracking 1,200 aircraft and missiles. Ka Long 1 does not require a satellite overpass because it is present in the theater continuously, 24 hours a day. Defense Security Asia confirmed its sensor suite, including spherical and cylindrical radome antenna arrays, alongside electronic intelligence and signals intelligence systems, can detect the electromagnetic emissions of the carrier's escort destroyers, even when the fort itself is in full MCON posture. That is the structural constraint. MCON on the carrier does not silence the escort screen, and the escort screen is detectable at the ranges the Liao Wang 1 operates. The fourth layer is China's commercial satellite constellation, whose high revisit rate imaging capability collapses the blind window between overpasses, the hours or days that Cold War MCON doctrine exploited for repositioning 2 minutes over any given area of the Arabian Sea or Red Sea. Combined, these four layers describe a surveillance environment fundamentally different from the threat environment for which MCON was designed. The deepest confirmed layer of this story connects the Ford's DBR problem to its MCON problem in a structurally precise way. When the Ford operates in full MCON posture, suppressing active radar emissions to prevent Russian and Chinese electronic intelligence satellites from detecting its position, it suppresses the same radar system the Army Recognition Group confirmed offers enhanced detection of small, fast-moving targets, including drones and supersonic cruise missiles. The same system the DOT and E confirmed was already experiencing intermittent failures under continuous demand before this deployment. Defense analysts note this represents a structural dilemma with no clean solution in the current threat environment. Run the DBR continuously, and the Ford broadcasts its position to every electronic intelligence asset in the theater. Suppress the DBR under MCON, and the carrier degrades its detection capability against the drone and missile threats that exist whether or not the carrier is broadcasting. The Liao Wang 1, the Russian ILINT satellites, and Mizar Vision's synthetic aperture radar are tracking the Ford simultaneously and continuously from positions that MCON cannot affect. The DOT and E report this documented concern about DBR availability under continuous demand was not a peacetime maintenance footnote. It was a documented warning about exactly this operational scenario. A carrier whose most advanced and most unique sensor is being stressed by the operational tempo of the theater for which it was the design solution. 3 publicly trackable indicators will signal whether the Ford's electromagnetic challenge is producing any institutional response in the coming weeks. The first indicator is whether CENTCOM or the U.S. Navy issues any public statement confirming a change in the Ford's operational area within the Red Sea. Keter, in response to the Houthi threat to resume attacks on shipping, confirmed, as announced on February 28, 2026. If the Ford repositions away from the Houthi drone and missile range, confirmed to extend approximately 1,000 kilometers from Yemen's coast, that repositioning will be visible on commercial satellite imagery published by Mizar Vision or in Pentagon-released photographs. The Ford's MCON posture cannot prevent Mizar Vision from imaging it the next time it conducts flight operations, because flight operations generate aircraft movements. Radar returns from dozens of airborne aircraft, hand acoustic signatures from catapult launches and arrested landings that no MCON protocol suppresses. The second indicator is whether the Pentagon's Director of Operational Test and Evaluation publishes any interim assessment of the Ford's DBR performance during combat operations. DOT and E report, cited by the War Zone in February 2025, documented DBR availability declining under continuous demand in a peacetime exercise. The Ford has now been at sea, past the threshold that Vice Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Jim Kilby confirmed under Senate Armed Services Committee testimony will produce maintenance data across all ship systems, and it has been conducting continuous combat operations since February 28th, generating the highest continuous radar demand it has ever experienced. If the DOT&E publishes any interim combat performance data, the DBR availability figure in that assessment will be the most operationally significant confirmed number in the entire electronic warfare dimension of this conflict. The third indicator is whether any Chinese, Russian, or Iranian state-affiliated publication in the coming 30 days produces positional data about the Ford inside the Red Sea theater, more precise than what the Pentagon has officially disclosed. Data that could only have been derived from sensors not dependent on eyes or GPS transmissions. The Laoang 1 is collecting. Russian, ILANT satellites are transmitting to Iranian command structures per the confirmed March 6th reporting of the Washington Post, NBC, ABC, K, and CNN. Mizar Vision is processing and publishing on X. If any such publication produces a confirmed positional assessment of the Ford derived from 9 sensor systems, it will be the operational confirmation that the 4-layer surveillance architecture documented in this series can track a carrier in full electromagnetic ghost mode in a way that Cold War MCON doctrine never anticipated. The confirmed record assembles into a precise picture. The Ford departed Suda Bay on February 26, 2026 in confirmed electromagnetic ghost mode. AFP photographer Kostas Metaxas documented it leaving Mizar Vision, confirmed by Flight Global and AirMech. Published its position using satellite imagery the same day and continued tracking via synthetic aperture radar after eyes shut down. The Washington Post, NBC News, ABC News, CNN 9 combined independent sources confirmed on March 6 that Russia is providing U.S. force location intelligence to Iran in real time. Nicole Graevsky of Harvard's Belfort Center confirmed on record that the sophistication of Iranian attacks in this conflict is notably higher than in June 2025, consistent with enhanced external targeting intelligence. The Laoang 1 confirmed by Defense Security Asia to be operating in the Gulf of Oman with a 6,000-kilometer surveillance envelope capable of simultaneously tracking 1,200 targets, was present in the theater when the Ford transited the Suez Canal on March 5th with USS Bainbridge and entered the Red Sea. The Ford's dual-band radar, the only one ever installed on an American carrier, is confirmed by the Pentagon's own Director of Operational Test and Evaluation to have experienced intermittent failures under continuous demand in a peacetime exercise, is the carrier's best defense against the drone and missile threats of the theater it entered. The signal was not lost. It was deliberately silenced. And the surveillance architecture positioned in this theater, using tools that Cold War MCON doctrine was never designed to address, watched the Ford anyway.